I guess I call us to order. If Craig, if you can start with the roll call
Yes, ma'am. Allison Buck,
here.
Deborah Mexicott,
Here.
Jonah Kopi,
Here.
David Esau. I see the wave. You're on mute,
Oh,
David.
there, now I am, okay.
David's here.
I'm here.
Sarah Fuller,
Here.
Sophie Gray,
Here.
John Katarski,
Here.
Peggy Leonard,
Here.
Wasenta Young. Absent. And Councilmember Ali Ramali. Absent. You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda, and I'm sorry guys, I'm looking at an old agenda, so if I go out of order for any reason, just stop me. Next on the agenda is public comment. And I forget already how that works. If there are people in the public, would we be able to see them?
Anita should be able to see if anybody is in the waiting room with a phone number.
Did we approve the agenda, Allison, already?
No.
Okay, sorry. I think we should do that. Oh,
Okay,
and
let's
here
do
comes-
that.
And I've got Wasenta coming in too.
Oh, great.
And just at this
Okay.
pause, if we do the agenda and then the minutes, and then we can move on to public commentary.
Yes,
Perfect.
correct.
Perfect. So do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Thank
I'll
you,
second.
David, second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
Okay. The agenda is approved. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Moved.
Thank you, Deb. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, John. Any discussion? Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I should probably abstain because I had to duck out halfway through the meeting.
And one abstention.
Okay.
Or half an abstention.
Yes.
You mean you didn't go and watch the recording, David?
No, I did not. I didn't even think of that.
Okay. Then the motion to approve the minutes goes forward. Minutes approved. Now we will move on to public comment. Vanita, is there anyone in the public here?
No one in the public.
Well, then that's a short public commentary. Next, we have presentations, which we have none this time around, and then report from chair. So basically, guys, we've had a lot of stuff going on and have made a lot of progress since we last met. All of this I'm going to go over very quickly because we're going to go over it in greater detail throughout the course of this meeting. The first thing we talked about our previous couple of meetings, we've been talking about how we have this endowment of money at the Ann Arbor Area Community Foundation and how we were looking at expanding that language with the agreement there so that we could use the funds for more than just maintenance and repair. And that was approved by their board. So the language has been expanded as we requested. So that's exciting. There is specific language about that and how much money there is there and when we're going to be getting that we will address later in the meeting. So more excitement around that. We also will be talking about this later in the meeting too, but Ali has been continuing to work on our bylaws and specifically the portion that is very limiting for commissioners that does not allow us to participate or bid for any public art projects as a commissioner on the Ann Arbor Public Art Commission. And so he's kind of dug into that language with legal and gone back and forth with them to get some movement on that. We'll look at that specific language that he's suggesting for a change tonight. The dollar amount in his suggested language was just a dollar amount he threw out there. It's not something he's married to, and I think it's something worth our discussion and looking at before we send those bylaws forward. So that's something we'll discuss even further as we look at that language, is what dollar amount we think makes the most sense for that portion. Also wanted to,
Ollie's in on the meeting too, so he's here.
hello, welcome. We're just doing a quick report from chair. So one of the things we'll do today also, which is exciting coming up, is our annual retreat. We do this every year in December. We get together, we talk about what we've been up to, what we did. We relook at all of our working groups to see if those still make sense, and set new goals and reassign people to accomplish those goals within the working groups. So it's usually a much longer meeting than we normally do. It's usually around 3 hours because there's a lot more planning and discussion in those meetings. So we will look at our calendars today to get that on our calendars. Likely we will either extend our Wednesday meeting to start earlier and maybe go a little later, or move it to a Saturday. I am not recommending that we do both of those meetings. We'll just do one. So we'll look at doing that, and I'm excited to hear everyone's thoughts and move forward with some goal setting for next year. And the last thing, I'm just gonna tease out here that our public art collection has grown since we last saw you guys. And if you have been, going on daily to look at our public art tour, it's already added there, but I will let staff tell you more about that later in the meeting, and suggest that you go to our tour later and check it out, or go in person because it's beautiful out right now. So that is all for my report today. The next on our agenda is new business, and in new business, we're going to talk about when we're going to do our retreat. So the next meeting is scheduled for December, I want to say 4th. Is that correct, Benita?
December 9th.
9th.
Yep.
And like I said, we can either decide we want to still do it December 9th, but maybe start a little earlier in the day. I mean, I could say even like 5. Or,
Allison?
yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I have that December 9th meeting starting on the calendar already at 4.
Oh, okay.
If that helps.
Okay. So we can do that. Or if that conflicts with people's daily work or whatever, we can look at doing it on a Saturday morning. Do people have opinions or preferences for
Did you
that
say-
meeting?
Sorry, Sophie, did you say it was starting at 4 p.m.?
That's one of the options. You would have that December 9th meeting start at 4 p.m. or we can look at potentially moving it to a Saturday morning.
It could also start at 5 and go till 8. There are other options that we might have for that.
I do have a conflict. I'm just one person of the group, though. I have a school meeting that goes until 5:15 on that Wednesday.
Okay.
But I could jump right from there to here and just come a little late too.
Okay.
I might propose a 5:30 to 8:30 to accommodate that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I got you, Peggy.
Does 5:30 to 8:30 that day work for everybody? Because that would be probably the easiest than trying to find a Saturday that works for everybody.
That works for me.
Definitely prefer not Saturday.
Yeah. Okay. I don't hear any buddy saying, no, that doesn't work. So let's do that then. Vanita, if you can just update that on the calendar. So if the public wants to Zoom in, they can.
Okay, sure.
Yes, Deb.
And is that, I believe that's probably our next scheduled meeting, is that correct?
Yes.
I apologize. Hi, everybody. I had some technical issues with my computer. I just caught the tail end of this 3 hours, this annual work session, or
Yeah, I'm not sure if you've done one of those with us before, but each year we do a planning session where we look at our goals and set them for the next year. We kind of review what we've been doing and stuff.
I've only been there for part of the meetings, but I've been to, I think, 2 of them already.
Great.
Yeah.
Yep, so our next one's coming up this December. We just scheduled it 5:30 to whenever, probably 8:30 on December 9th is when that discussion will happen.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right. Also under new business, it looks like is our bylaws discussion. So this discussion is twofold tonight. One, we're going to look at the language that Ali has put together with the help of the city's legal team. I will let you kind of summarize that if you want to, Ali, and take us through that.
Well, I'll try. If you want me to go, I will try to pull it up here as soon as I do. But simply was to respond to the request of many members of this commission to address the bylaws on the membership, and that the current. Okay, great. Thanks, Vanita.
Thank you, Vanina.
You're welcome.
The current bylaws have prohibited some members in our community to serve on this commission if they have conflicts of interest in bidding on work that passes through this commission. So that, and then also the 1-year prohibition of bidding on any work after serving on the commission. So those were 2 issues that John and others have raised that are sorry, the word I'm looking for right now is that they hurt the commission, and they simply don't. They can be worked around in the sense that if there is a conflict of interest, the commissioner can recuse themselves of the vote that affects what they're voting on. So what word I'm looking for is punitive. These 2 issues were punitive for members of the community to join the commission and be a part of this commission. So that is what we wanted to address here. And now this $1,500 amount that is in the screen share right now, all this underlined red text is what would be proposed to be amended to. So this $1,500 really was just a placeholder of sorts. This commission can decide as to whether that's too low or too high or just right before sending this for further consideration to council. But that was brought up by the leadership of this commission as perhaps being a number that was as too low. But there isn't really a strong argument made to maintain that $1,500 figure. So I'll leave it up to this body to debate, discuss, and ask questions. Apologize that took me a few minutes extra to get ready for tonight's meeting.
No worries. I'll continue this by saying, when we looked at this, the 1,500, we've never awarded, I think the only times we've awarded that little amount to an artist, it has been specifically just for design work. Any other artists have received more than that, specifically because a lot of the contracts include the artist buying the materials, installing the art and all that. So when I met with Vanita and Craig about the agenda, I asked them a little bit about, there's some thresholds that the city works with in general about when they take a contract out for bid, when a contract has to go to city council and those sorts of things. Vanita, could you share what those thresholds are if you were able to get that information?
I didn't get any information from purchasing for those
Okay.
thresholds. Craig, you're on mute. Yes.
I'm off of mute now. Generally at 3,000, we have to take informal quotes. What I don't know is the mid-range where we have to do a formal quote bid. I think it's around 10,000. And at 25,000, whatever we do as a contract, we take to city council. So that's what's in our purchasing system now. And I am not necessarily recommending that we tie to any of those levels, but that's just what's out there.
Thank you. So I'm sort of the frame of mind, we do 20,000, which is less than that threshold amount. But I'm curious to hear what thoughts from other people, if they think this language works, if there's a dollar amount they think works better. You're all smaller now, so I can't see you all at the same time. So just go ahead. Sophie, I think I see your hand.
I was going to say maybe it could be something like 3,000, excluding costs of materials and installation. Since, that seems to be what was bumping it up to the much higher figures. Or 5,000, excluding cost of material and installation, say. Does that sound as though it's more in line with what we've had in the past? Or what we've...
Well, I mean, like the Stadium Bridge project, he got $100,000.
That was
Including or
materials.
excluding?
But that included a lot of materials and things. So that's the most recent project that I know of what the award was. So I don't really know what the range has been.
So if we were to exclude materials and installation, then it would be a much more manageable amount, perhaps, to...
Yeah, I mean, if it was just the award amount rather than...
Yeah.
But I don't know if we can chunk it up that way legally in this document. I don't know. You had all those conversations with the legal, Ali.
Well, I mean, legal didn't have a whole lot to say. I mean, this is city council's decision, and legal originally was against this idea of changing this these requirements or prohibitions. They only did this after repeatedly I asked for it, and we have to keep in mind you have to have this palatable for city council. I just find that, especially right now with COVID and the way that money's looked at right now and how it's being spent, that is something you want to keep in mind is that if this number is it may raise eyebrows and lose support. So as we discuss this, remember that you want hopefully to get this past city council approval, and in doing so, I just $20,000 is going to be a number that jumps off the page.
Deb.
So I want to make sure, and Ali, thank you so much for pushing this as far as you have, because we know that the legal did not want to go here, and we really appreciate that you went there on our behalf. So thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't think we want to, however, clump everything in this whole process together. So the reason we're trying to make this change is because we want people to serve on the commission. Most of us have no artist interest that we're going to be bidding on. But those of us that do may want to bid on something and recuse themselves. And that's all we're allowing them to do, is bid on something and recuse themselves, and allowing them to serve on this commission. That's all this is doing. It does not get them out of the contracting rules. It doesn't get them out of having to go through a bidding process. It doesn't get them out of city council deciding that they don't like the price tag for whatever gets put forward. That, in a lot of ways, is an entirely different matter. And so this idea that we're somehow encumbering funds or putting a limit on funds or deciding a level of funds is not what we're doing at all. All we're doing is saying an artist that's serving on this council can bid on a project and recuse themselves by doing so, because we don't even award the contract. All we do is make recommendations. So I think that we don't want to get too far down the road in saying, oh, there's all this money, or, oh, there's all this conflict of interest. I think we're doing something pretty simple and at the front end that has nothing to do with all the steps and hoops and levels that have to happen at the back end. And we do not have any ability to commit money that that is not in already in all the other processes.
Well, Deb, appreciate you keeping us out of the weeds.
I just think that we're so conscientious that we want to buy a lot of trouble for ourselves, and really that all we're trying to do is these couple simple things, and then everything else still applies.
So Deb, are you saying we should take a dollar amount out, or?
Oh, how would Deb ever say that? Yeah, Deb might be saying that.
David, you had your hand up before. Did you?
Well, I was going to suggest pretty much the same thing that Sophie did. I would be totally in agreement with taking the dollar amount out. Unfortunately, I think Deb doesn't need to really convince any of us of this. It's all the other people outside of our committee that needed to be convinced, and that didn't seem likely to happen.
Yeah, Ali, is the dollar amount in there because you thought that city council wouldn't put this forward without it?
No, I mean, to be honest with you, a lot of it is just the trepidation that legal had. So just trying to quell that concern. But it's this body's, ask in bylaws, and this commission, if they feel comfortable, taking this ask and request to city council without putting a dollar amount on it, I'm fine with it. I mean, I think Deb is right. You got all those checks and balances still in place to make sure the abuses don't occur, and that this person is recusing themselves of the vote, and hopefully the commission, continues to have, a spirit of good faith in what it does. So, I'm okay with that. It is, I would say that this commission's decision on where they want to go with it, but it is a rather clever way of addressing it.
What was legal's position on wanting to have that dollar amount in there? Did they just feel like that was a safeguard?
It was just a suggestion, not necessarily a position of theirs, but a suggestion they had. They just like to have a really, as the city does, a tight leash on their boards and commissions. And they all want them to, have the same boilerplate language applied to them all. They don't recommend making exceptions typically. So we are making an exception in this case, a small one, and one that makes sense in my opinion. But when it comes to the legal department, they don't like making exceptions, and they like using boilerplate conservative approaches to, managing these matters.
Okay.
John, you had your hand up.
Yes, I understand what Ollie is saying, and let me reiterate. I think this is great, Ollie. This is one of the exceptions that you've been able to get legal to participate in. So appreciate that.
Thank you.
The reason this started was because of Mary Thiefel. She wanted to bid on a project for the city, and she, it was told she couldn't, and she couldn't for a year after. So that caused everyone to say, wait a minute, we need to think about this. I agree with Deb that I assumed that it had to do with whether or not a commission member could participate if they recuse themselves from any of the voting without any sort of dollar amount. That it's also clear to me that $1,500 is way too low. I mean, the Mary Thiefel's did Almendinger Park, and I think that was like 22,000. So, and the project that she was going to bid on, I think was over 25,000. And but the point is, what I hear Ollie saying is that legal would support what is written here, and that I would think it'd be better for us to go to council with the support of legal, and then find that we have a situation where the dollar amount is way too small, and we have another encounter like we did with Mary, and then go back. But it's the politics of it. And Ollie, I trust your judgment as to whether or not you think, there would be opposition from legal if we took the dollar amount out, which I think is the smart thing, and which eventually down the road someplace, I totally agree with Deb that it needs to be done. And would council oppose it if legal opposed it? So I think we need council on what the best approach is.
Legal will write their advice to council, and it's up to council whether it takes that advice or not. And many times, to be honest with you, especially in the last 2 years, we don't take it as often as perhaps as before, and just to push the envelope a little bit, not be reckless. But I think here $1,500 obviously makes this change almost ineffective.
Right.
It does nothing. So I think in order to have some sort of effect, and I think you got one bite at this apple, I wouldn't keep going back and asking for changes. So I would either set it at $25,000 or don't put an amount in there at all. But I think to leave it at 1,500 seems to be, again, ineffective. Legal will say regardless whether it was $1 or 25,000 or no amount, that they wouldn't recommend this change. So I don't think that it's going to change legal's opinion all that much. They just would rather see it be zero.
Can I get a take the temperature of the room that if we just took the dollar amount out, how many people would want to push this forward with no dollar amount?
That would be the easiest.
Mm-hmm.
All right, look, wow, everyone agrees. Let's do that. Easy. Wasantha, are you raising your hand because you agree, or do you have a question?
Who? Me?
Wasantha.
Oh, Wasantha.
I have a question. Do you think, Ali, that this will come back to us if you don't put a dollar amount in there?
I mean, there's always a chance. I would say with everything that's going on, it's rather more of an innocuous issue. But I could be wrong. I've been wrong many times before. We'll find out. I would say, just like in any negotiation, ask for as much as you can, and then have them cut you down a little bit. But shoot for the
I think
stars.
that's a good idea. Yeah, to not have a dollar amount in there, see what they have to say, and then go from there, rather than putting a dollar amount in there and then having to go back in and try and pump it up a little.
Yep. Agreed.
Let,
Agreed.
let me
Great. Deb.
ask a procedural question.
Oh, yeah, Craig.
When would you want to take this to council?
When would be the next
council,
time we could?
well, the existing council tends to be very conservative on funding. Am I correct in that, Councilmember Romali?
Yeah, absolutely correct. But we haven't worked with the new council, and we're not even sure,
Yeah,
what
That's
their take is. They could become even more conservative financially.
right. So
And it's going to take them months before they got their, running shoes on. So thank you, Mr. Hupy, for bringing the timing up. I think it's might as well. I would suggest, with my relationships with members on council who are currently still there, it may help bringing this before, the first, the second meeting in November, have it be brought, perhaps the first meeting in November, November 6th, I think.
It's on November the 5th. Yes, and we still have time to get items in for that. Yes.
That's the meeting we're working on now.
Yes.
November 2nd? November 2nd?
5th.
No.
5th.
November
because
5th.
of the election, that's correct. I'm sorry. It would be the 5th. Yeah, I think it would, unless this wants to stew for 6 months and bring it to the new council in the beginning of the new year. But
No, I think we move forward with November 5th. Sounds good to me. Deb, you had your hand up.
Oh, I was just going to say, I want to reiterate that this is not a funding issue. That, at least that's the way I look at it. This is an anti-corruption membership issue.
Mhm.
It's not a funding issue at all.
and
And
I'll try to remember that if this gets debated at the table, it may,
oh, and Ali, I mean, any one of us, of course, would be happy to speak on the changes behalf if that was helpful. And
Okay.
and in some cases, it is helpful if one of the gathered speaks, and in other cases, it isn't helpful. And in other cases, it's just helpful if the certain member speaks on it, or vice versa. So you'll just think on that.
sounds like you know how politics work.
I do.
I was raising the issue of the meeting timing just so it got deliberate consideration. And I would encourage folks to sign up for the public commentary for that meeting to speak. And that whole process, we can share you the process for doing that, but it requires being Johnny on the spot on the phones to get on the list.
Is there not, oh, I'm sorry, just to follow up with Craig really quickly, is there not a way for us as sort of a piece of official business to have a
No,
opportunity to speak to council?
no, only at public hearings. And I don't believe a bylaw change triggers a public hearing. I might be wrong.
Well, I haven't seen one yet. I haven't seen a bylaw change, set for a public hearing
No,
to
so
date.
So it would require speaking in the assigned speaking time at the beginning, which requires reserving your time.
Or of course, sending council a letter explaining your position as such and letting them know ahead of time and just softening up those concerns, and just letting them know what you just explained.
I think Deb and I would be happy to draft the letter and be present at the meeting should questions arise. And I think you speaking on our behalf, Ali, does a lot. And we can all be on the same page with what we're putting forward based off of that letter.
It only takes 6 votes, so yeah, I appreciate it. I think we can whip it up, but you know.
All right, cool. Sarah, I saw your hand up.
Sarah
yes.
And John and David.
Yeah, I just had a quick question about the selection process for most projects. I've only been to one previous meeting, but I was understanding that usually the selection process is outsourced.
Yep.
Sorry, what?
You're correct. That's why
Yeah.
this is all kind of, it's very punitive, especially in our instance, because we do not make the selection. We don't make the recommendation for the work. We're kind of outside of that entire process. Generally, the whole selection process is contracted out to either a nonprofit who will do that, or the city staff handles that directly. And then at the very end, we will look at, basically get a report of that selection process and say, great, that piece looks good. It looks like you used public commentary, you used public input. We like the process. Not even we don't even comment on whether we like the art. It's just, did your process go well? And so, yeah, we're not really involved in the selection process anyways. So it is very outside of us. So that this change really shouldn't be that difficult to swallow. Understanding all that. I think that there's lots that are more disconnected from what we do that don't know that that's the process. And so that'll be important that we articulate some of those nuances in that letter that we put forward to City Council.
Right, because it seems, I mean, if a commissioner was to submit a bid, that other members of the commission might not even be aware that that person did submit a bid, and it would go to an outsourced vote to the point where we wouldn't even necessarily be aware.
Correct.
Right.
We would require that they make us aware for any recommendation that might be put forward.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Allison, and everyone. Really, the comments that you're making, they're all great comments, and I think really highlighting the firewall that exists in these decisions is very helpful.
David and John, I saw your hands up. I do want to move us along unless your comments would change drastically our conversation.
I think mine would, in that if we take out the compensation exception, that whole first sentence makes no sense. Because the sentence that was in there before is an absolute prohibition of having anything to do with
I think you just take the number amount out. You say except for bidding for public art is the way I saw it.
What's that?
There, you just take the number amount out. So I think the second line said something about except for bidding for public art projects.
What else would we have that the first sentence would apply to except for a contract for public
It's
art?
because the first sentence is a sentence that's in every commission's bylaws.
Yeah, I guess I'm just saying that the language doesn't make, the whole language of that paragraph doesn't make any sense if we take out the dollar amount.
Vanina, can we scroll back to what we're discussing?
Sorry.
It's okay.
It's 5.3.
Here we go. So I gotta make this bit smaller. So like what I'm suggesting is after the comma, you don't include that portion of it. So I know this, it does sound kind of funny with the first sentence, but they were keeping that in regardless. So a member of the commission shall not obtain for the member or for any person with whom the member has business or family ties, any financial or beneficial interest in a matter which may be affected by a decision of the commission, except that a member may bid on a contract for public art, period. And then the rest of the other sentence, in order to avoid the appearance of influencing decisions, blah, 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 blah.
I just can't see how, given what little effect we have on any kind of financial decisions, how that's the 7 or 8 words that we're adding there don't completely negate the first sentence. And I don't think the council would, or legal would go along with that.
Well, we're also adding, in order to avoid the appearance of influencing decisions, recommendations, or preliminary decisions, discussions for the benefit of their own bid, a member must notify the commission and staff liaison in writing if there's a reasonable possibility that the member of the member's business will bid on a contract, and then the member must abstain from discussion and voting on all matters related to the contract and the project under which the contract is issued. We're adding a whole lot of language.
I guess, even though I agree with what we're trying to do, I can't believe that legal would sign off on the language we're trying to get them to sign off on.
This language is actually drafted by legal. This is the language that legal provided to us.
With the provided the compensation is no more than some amount.
But we're taking out the compensation piece.
That's right.
Understand what David's driving at.
Well, does legal need to look at it again before it goes to city council?
Most likely.
So
Yes.
let's try it without the dollar amount in there and see what we get from there.
I'll
Deb?
follow up with Mr. Frost about it and let him know. I understand the intent and spirit of the conversation here, and I can carry it with him. And I would, if Anita and Craig could, deliver it, and then I'll follow up with him with a phone
sure.
conversation.
We can do that.
Thank you.
Deb?
And I'd like to defer to John, though, before I make any more comments.
Okay, John?
It's just minor, and this is to Ali, that in my mind, I'm totally in agreement with Deb Mexicott, that it's the question to the council is, do they want practicing artists to be on the art commission? If they do, they have to figure out a way to allow their service to be non-punitive. So they may not want practicing artists.
Well, I think, a lot of the issues that existed before were because of the tax-paying dollars that were being spent on public art and the controversies that, even myself ain't completely clear on, but this doesn't, touch on that hot issue. So I think the firewalls that are in place and the processes that, these decisions are made under, don't raise those concerns that existed prior. But again, that's just my opinion.
Deb?
One last thing, well, two last things, one procedural and one a question mark. We could basically float two different sets of language, one with the $25,000 sitting on it and one with zero to legal. We could basically do both. I wouldn't do this one with the 25,000 until legal lost their minds over the no dollar amount. But, if you're talking about negotiating, that's what's something we could do. But from a procedural standpoint, if we do go back and get legal they're not going to agree necessarily, but to get a language that they are willing to say is English and does what we intend for it to do to put forward, do we have to come back in perhaps a publicly posted special meeting just to agree with the language moving forward? And if so, what's that timing if we wanted to be on November 5th?
I could bring it to council that Thursday. My deadline is the Thursday before the 5th. Well, I don't know now that one's because of the election has moved.
That Thursday would be the 29th.
29th of October. But staff doesn't have as much.
Oh.
They have to have it submitted much sooner than a council member does. And I'm not sure, Craig could probably tell us what date staff has to have it in by.
Our deadline is for November the 5th would be October 14th.
And I'd prefer, if it was submitted by staff.
So what that would mean, Ali, is we'd need a pretty quick turnaround on acceptable but not recommended language from legal to do what we want to do. And then if it's And then the question is, does it have to come back to us for a final vote? And then go to council?
Could you support both of them at tonight's meeting?
We technically could, if we agreed that the language made enough sense. I think David has raised the question about whether taking this clause out removes both its English language and its legal potential to do the things that we want it to do. And I just want to make sure that we're paying attention to that.
Yeah, and if staff is doing it and we have to have it back in on the 14th, understand the 12th is City Hall is not open. So we're essentially having to crank that out yet this week.
Again, and I have until the 29th. So if it doesn't happen via staff, then I would bring it up.
Yeah, we'll
as
try to make
a council-sponsored resolution.
Yeah, we'll try to make it happen. I'm just laying out what's out there on the calendar.
All right, well, who will, is it Ali, is it you, unfortunately, that has to go back to city council with these two changes?
If it does, if staff doesn't submit it by the 12th or the 14th, that is, then yes, then I'd bring it I'd bring it up with council sponsored.
Benita and I can work with legal tomorrow on that.
And is the group amenable to coming back together in a single item meeting to okay the last piece, the finalized language?
I would just recommend what Craig said, and that is just approve two different versions.
Okay.
Right, so do I have a motion to approve the amended language with no dollar amount? Deb?
And to be more clear, that is removing the clause, except that a member, provided that the compensation is no more than $1,500 in total value. Just
Striking that.
removing that clause.
Yes.
I just want to make sure everyone knew what we were voting on.
Do we have a motion to approve the language with just that one change? Deb moves. Do I have a second?
Yes, I second it.
Sophie, thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, we have approval of the language as such. Do we want to go forward with the 20 or 25,000?
They're
I
both
would
nice,
suggest
they're both nice
25.
round numbers. Oh, I'm sorry.
You're suggesting 25?
That's what council uses and I know Craig has already said that.
Okay.
These are other numbers that we use in parts of government, but 25,000 is the threshold that matters need to be brought back to council for a vote.
Okay, so let's go with that. So basically we would keep the language exactly as it is, except for the 1,500 would change to 25,000. Do I have a motion to move that forward? David, and seconded by John. Any discussion? All in favor?
Wait, Sophie raised her hand.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird having two motions which are different. Is there anything else we have to do to it to make it be a real thing?
Well,
one we propose one if the other one doesn't work, or
Yep. So I think we've all said that we'd ideally like it with no dollar amount, and if legal puts that, it says, okay, that makes sense English wise, you can go forward. That is what Ali will take alone to City Council. If needed, we are going to have this secondary backup.
I think what Sophie is suggesting is language in the motion saying if the $0 amount does not pass, then this commission supports moving forward with the 25,000.
That makes
Excellent.
sense.
Okay, so with that amended language that Craig just so eloquently said, is there any further discussion? Deb?
And is that language amenable to John and David?
Yes.
Yes.
Any further discussion? Great, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I don't see any opposed. Then that motion moves. Thank you so much for bringing this to us, Ellie. I know there's a little bit more further work for you there, but
My pleasure is one of the better assignments.
Great.
There is the other part to the changes if you were going to be addressing that with the 1-year exclusion.
Oh, I thought that was all in that paragraph.
Yeah, we struck the 1-year exclusion.
Is it? Okay, I thought it was.
It struck through.
Okay, sorry.
The secondary thing we were going to talk about was for bylaws, was Sophie brought forward a question via email about whether or not we should change our name, which is the very first article of our bylaws, to Public Arts Commission rather than Public Art Commission. Sophie, if you just want to elaborate for everyone a little bit about what brought up that change discussion.
Yeah, so what happened was that at our last meeting, we were talking about the Golden Paintbrush Award, and I asked whether it related purely to visual art or to all kinds of art. And everyone seemed to be very keen that it should relate to all kinds of art. So I'm thinking, well, if we are actually involved in all kinds of art, you know, whether it's visual art or performance or music, then shouldn't we be called Public Arts with an S mission? Or is this only for the Golden Paintbrush Award? Or, you know, I just wanted to hear what people's thoughts were about that.
Great, David?
I kind of see what you're getting at. I think the Golden Paintbrush name maybe needs a broader term, but the distinction between art and arts in our name seems like a distinction without a difference to me, and I think council might feel like we're wasting our time.
I will say we looked at the bylaws a little bit deeper to see how public art is defined within them, and it is pretty loose. It doesn't stipulate it has to be a structure or infrastructure. It says art in public spaces, basically. So that's not limiting us.
So when I was looking at the paperwork for the Paintbrush Award, Golden Paintbrush Award, and I personally don't have a problem with calling it Golden Paintbrush, even if it is for other arts, but that I was thinking that people might not necessarily think it related to them or to the project that they liked, just because they think, oh, you know, because it's called art, that it would be not music or not performance. So, and wouldn't look further down to see that that was okay. But I mean, if it's only for that one-off thing, then it wouldn't matter too much. But I'm thinking if in the future we do want to do more to support other kinds of art, have we done that in the past? Have we supported any theatre or any music?
Not that I'm aware of. John, I think you have the most historical knowledge of the group.
Well, I don't know whether a specific project was brought to the Art Commission for funding, or that the Art Commission recommending commissioning something like that. Certainly not while I was a member. However, it was generally thought that public art was plural. It meant a lot of things. The ordinance was changed in 2013 to incorporate all sorts of things. It was broadened so that and that had to do with non-permanent art. That seemed to be the sticking point before. So could something like festive fools be considered a part of our charge, and it was. So it wanted to do all sorts of things. And the Public Art Commission is tied not just locally, but it's tied into a state ordinance, and it's tied into kind of a movement across the country, and that is public art commissions. And so I'm kind of I see what Sophie's getting at. That I think we would have broad latitude to support art if we framed it in a way that it enhanced the aesthetic quality of public spaces. So that's my perspective on it.
So Vanita has shared on the screen what our mission is, which is what I was referring to previously about how that is pretty broad as far as aesthetic quality of public spaces and structures. It doesn't limit us to it being a structure. Deb.
Well, and also the cultural and recreational opportunities really stretches it out to be dance or theater or film or anything else. One thing I also, so I agree that I think that the mission already is pretty, allows us to do other things as long as it's sort of enhancing public spaces, public, community, public health, whatever it happens to be. The thing that bothers me about the mission, though, is it stimulates economic.
Yes.
And I think we need a word like activity in there. And it may be that this is just a cut and paste issue from previous missions, but I do want to make sure that we're stimulating a noun after that adjective.
Mm-hmm.
If I may suggest, that might be a topic for your retreat in December to start tweaking the mission.
I think the mission is fine, just for the record. I just think we've lost a word somewhere.
Yeah, economic growth or something.
Or activity, yeah.
Economic, yeah.
I think this really does look to me like a cut and paste error.
We call it a typo.
Yeah, I'd be interested in going back to see in like an earlier version somewhere if there was just a word lost.
I would definitely prefer to see activity rather than growth.
Yeah, same here. But whatever it was, if it was something.
Well, and this discussion as it relates to the mission and things are things that we would love to do more of in our retreat, and kind of as we decide what goals we're going to be doing this year, looking at this kind of language and people's interests as well. So I think that this kind of conversation would be something we'd be doing more of in our December meeting. And unless there's anyone who, I would say, unless there's a group of us who want to move this forward, adding the S, now might be an appropriate time to do it since the bylaws are being looked at. So if I can just get kind of like a feeling of the room, can I have you just raise your hand if you do want to add an S at this time moving forward with the other change? Okay. Let's see. Okay, Sophie.
I feel neutral about it, but.
So I don't see a resounding majority. So let's table it. We can talk about it some more at our retreat and talk about what we might want to look at and make sure is in place to make that apparent or more obvious throughout our organization moving forward. Does that sound good, Sophie?
That sounds good, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you for bringing that up for discussion. I think it's always important to be examining those things and making sure we're all on the same page. And, those bylaws and mission statements are all important too. So I'm glad we got to look at them again.
It would be.
Sophie, you are muted.
I'm muted again. It would be nice if Anita could just forward that mission statement so that I don't have to find out where I put it.
Yes, Vanita, can you just share that with us all? Maybe helpful.
It's on the city website. It's just missing the activity word still.
Okay.
I think that's all we have under new business. Am I correct? We can move on to report from the staff now.
Yep.
Greg, do you want to do it? Do you want me to look at the report from staff? Oh, sure. Okay, so Allison, you had talked about the Ann Arbor Area Community Foundation Endowment. Do you want to, other than what's listed here, was there additional information that you wanted to share?
Well, so members who are just listening, I'll just read this to them then. So Ann Arbor Area Community Endowment, the Ann Arbor Community Foundation, Area Community Foundation Board of Trustees approved a modification to the Ann Arbor Art in Public Places Endowment Fund to expand the purpose definition to include the purchase and installation of public art, in addition to maintenance and preservation. A grant will be made to the city each year for funds available to use. Currently, we have $5,200. And I think I remember Craig mentioning that this would happen around December of each year. Is that correct?
If I can get myself unmuted. The dollar amount would be, we would be informed of it in December, and the actual transfer would be after the first of the year as we were doing budgeting.
Great. So the retreat might be a great time to talk about formalizing a working group to decide what we were going to do with that money annually. Deb.
I also think the discussion should center around whether and if we actually want to have it dispersed on a regular basis or on a as needed basis.
Yep, great. So Vanita, if you wanted to tell us about the second item.
I'll jump in.
Thank you, Craig.
The city and the DDA and the university have been engaged in design discussions for State Street and North U intersection in the State Street down toward William. As part of that discussion, the U brought up the Hamilton Fountain, which they had been essentially providing all the maintenance, care, and feeding of it. And they said, you know, this is your fountain and we want to be done with it. So with that, we gained a fountain into our art collection. For the you folks that may not have the agenda up in front of you, it was built or designed in 1919 by an Albin Pulaski. It's a bronze water fountain. It was a gift by Francis Hamilton, the mayor of Ann Arbor, from 1905 to 07. And it was installed in, as I said, 1919 at the 50th anniversary of Mr. Hamilton's graduation from U of M. So we have put it into two things. Vanita has entered it into our art collection, etc., and DPW has put it into their maintenance routine for drinking fountains. We do have a number of drinking fountains in the DDA, but none of them of this quality.
Great. Any questions for staff on that piece?
Urge you to either go visit in person or go out to the
virtual tour.
Yes, thank you. I was struggling with that, the virtual tour, and see it. It's
Deb.
interesting.
I just want to point out that like a lot of things in town, you have likely seen this fountain and not realized what you were looking at. But it is really indeed a dignified piece with a touch of youthful delight. And so making a point to go and look at it is pretty easy because it is literally right at the corner of State and North U. So right on the diag side. So
Great. And then the next piece here of the staff report, either Craig or Vanita, you want to take that away?
I don't have anything else.
Nope, that's part of the same paragraph. Okay. Do you guys have anything else for us?
No.
Next on the agenda is report from our work groups. And our business owners and developers work group is first. John?
Yes, you've all received a report. I represent the Art Commission. I'm a liaison on the Design and Review Board. And we had a hotel that is going to be built on Huron. And I think it's I'm losing my perspective of where this is at, but in any event, you have it in the report, and I
I
recommend.
think you said Huron and Fifth.
First Street.
Oh,
First Street, that's right.
It's where the massage place is.
Exactly.
Right.
So, and there are a couple of locations that I recommended for Art, and the developer is willing to consider it.
The next work group is our CIP work group. I'm assuming we don't have any updates about that, David?
No, that should be starting up pretty soon again, though.
Great.
I just want to say before we move on that I appreciate John's input on that design project. Looked good.
Thank you.
And also to mention that Wasanta sent me a text saying at 10 to 8 saying she had to leave and couldn't figure out how she should tell anyone.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Communications and art placement. We have no updates at this time. Fundraising. We don't have any updates other than what we've already talked about. The leadership forum also has not met recently, so there are no updates. Nominating and membership, no updates. We welcome Sarah again to this meeting, and we're happy to see Wasantha in this meeting earlier. Policy and governance, we have had a lengthy discussion over our bylaws, so I think we're done with that for today. And special projects, I don't know who's the lead of that working group right now. Sophie?
I think I'm going to be the one talking about this, whether I'm leadership or not, I'm not entirely sure, but anyway. Hopefully you all got the attachments on this about Golden Paintbrush Award. It's a bit similar to what we had before. We had to change a few dates, but I'm just wondering, would everyone like me to read over it, or?
If you just want to summarize it for us, that would be great.
I'm just trying to think. I should have marked up with the new bits, but so we've just rearranged a few of the FAQs so that the second one is the award for visual art only. So that was partly the discussion we were having. So no, all and any of the arts are eligible, it says. We've included some categories, but I think we don't require anywhere for there to be an award in each category. There could be 3 in one and none in the others, depending on what's received, because the judges are given a lot of leeway in what they want to award. Anyone can nominate, basically, including you can nominate yourself. Project has to be within the city. So we've had nominations will be accepted on the Public Art Commission's website through February the 28th, 2021. And the awards will be awarded through April. So I hope that that seems like a timetable that would be achievable. Though the nominations could be ongoing, so a late nomination would go in for the following year. So who is eligible? A project or organization is given the award, but those individuals who create, work on, finance, or otherwise support a creative project will receive a certificate of their achievement. The awardees do not have to be residents of Ann Arbor. Up to 4 projects each year would be awarded the Golden Paintbrush Award. The number of certificates awarded will be determined by the judges. The number of certificates per project, sorry. How will the nominations be judged? Judged on craftsmanship, visibility, creativity, impact, civic engagement, and sustainability, including ease of maintenance. You can receive more than one award if it's for a different project. And then there'll be a list of the previous awardees. So that's all the FAQs. Any questions about that?
Steven?
Yeah, couple things in FAQ number 2 about is the award for visual arts only. You have a category for people's choice, but there's no real mechanism for the public to vote, is there?
Yeah, so that's going to be on the website. But I don't know if I should probably have that somewhere in the FAQs, right?
Yeah, I don't think anything in here talks about there being that mechanism. I think it would be cool if we could do that.
Yeah, it should be probably under how will the nominations be judged. So then, do you think it should be under a separate one? I can put it under
Yeah,
how.
somewhere in here, we just need to say something about
Yeah.
there being a process for that. It
Yeah,
sounds like
maybe under that judged one, we should add in another one saying the People's Choice Award will be judged by voting through the website.
yeah, that sounds good. And then in number 6 on the timing, it all sounds reasonable. I would just, this whole year has been an exercise in learning the folly of promising specific times for anything to happen. So maybe add some abouts in there. And especially for when they're awarded, we can't control when council finds time to put it on the agenda. So
That's true.
they will announce it, or we intend to announce it in April. The actual
You might look at like spring language or something, more vague.
Yeah, we'll be awarded in the spring, should we say? When does spring end?
Yeah.
Before solstice. I don't know.
I wouldn't, I would, if I could interject for a second, not, think about the timing for council necessarily, but maybe the timing for people to participate in this process and when, so maybe it is spring or fall, but not summer because it's hard to get people together in the summer, but
yeah.
But I know, to be honest with you, the springtime for councils, if you are considering that, I appreciate the consideration, is probably the more busier time of the year for council.
So were you suggesting a different time or that it should be late spring or?
Just to be able to get as much participation, I guess, in terms of the artists, the judges, public now. So perhaps, early spring but I don't want to overly complicate the issue in the sense of what the schedule for council is. But I'd rather see them be awarded when they have their most, the best stage for it, the most participation.
So what if we said like June 1st? That's still springish? I don't know.
Well, we could.
A full agenda council actually would be good. A full agenda at council would mean there'd be a lot of people there and lots going on. So it might be a good time to have the awards announced.
Yeah, I mean, we approve our budget in May, you know, it could be,
Lots
you
of
know,
people.
right after the budgets get approved, have something like this.
I feel like it's a feel-good thing which people would like to do, but obviously not if it's the agenda's too huge. But it shouldn't take all that long, I wouldn't think either. I mean, I don't know.
No, I mean, I think June is probably a great, you know, first meeting in June is probably a great idea.
Okay, so should we put the nominations through April in that case, or March, or April?
April.
Yeah.
I think
Maybe
other than these kind of awards, they get announced when the decision is made, but then the awards are handed out at council sometime after that.
Yeah.
Something like historic preservation awards, I don't think those are just announced at council. They're in the paper, and then they say the awards will be given out at council.
Well, there's a whole presentation for that award. Actually, they come and put on like almost an hour presentation.
So how about we say the awards for that year will be announced at a certain time, and then followed by a presentation in the council or something like that.
You might want to say recognition at city council's first meeting in June.
Should I be so promising? It's just followed by recognition in at city council.
Yeah, put
Yeah.
that placeholder in there now. You know,
Maybe once we get a routine going, it'll be more predictable.
And we might get that whole hour for our awards too.
we'll give you, everyone gets 15.
They got nothing else to do.
So when are we saying the announcements as opposed to the recognition is going to happen?
Late spring.
Late spring. Okay. And the deadline is going to be end of March, or did we say?
Thought we said like April 1st.
I'd even go through April. That way you're going to get more of the school, you know, potentially, and things like that.
Yeah.
I'd go to the end of April. I mean, the judges aren't going to need, 12 weeks to figure this out. So end of April for the submissions.
Okay.
And I would do something like a award at city council in the first 2 weeks of June. That way you can slide it around a bit.
Okay.
I don't know what you think about that, Ollie, but.
I'm thinking that ICPOC has their presentation at the first, council meeting of each month. The council meeting, the first one of each month. So maybe that in mind. So we already have one presentation that's already a standing presentation by ICPOC, by the Police Oversight Commission. So perhaps the second meeting in June would be
Second
the best.
meeting in June.
Perfect.
So the last Friday in April is the 26th. And then, or there's a Tuesday, the 30th. Do we care?
Again, if you're doing it for bylaw purposes, make it the last Friday in April.
Okay.
This isn't for bylaws.
Or even for just codifying it.
This is just putting a plan together to submit to council for approval, I believe.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's the FAQs. Anything more on FAQs? Which is really what it is rather than FAQs. But anyway, then there's the judging, the nomination form. So, Ann Arbor Public Art Commission invites nominations of a project or organisation which involves either in public art, I think there's an extra in got in there, which involves either public art or art benefiting the public cultural life of the city, and which exemplifies Ann Arbor as the creative capital of our region. It's a bit vague, but we didn't want to claim to be Detroit. The nominees will be judged on craftsmanship, visibility, creativity, civic engagement, and sustainability, including ease of maintenance. So there's one is describing what you're nominating. 2 is describe the civic connections of your nominated project, how the community was involved, and so on. And then 3 is describe why you believe this project to be worthy of the reward. And then 4 has gone missing. It's supposed to be printed on both sides and it isn't. Sorry about that. I've lost my number 4. Anybody else have their number 4? It was supposed to print on both sides and it hasn't.
I have it here, your updated one, right? Where we had the categories, where we did the categories and then describe the community or collaborative connection. And then 5 was describe why you believe this project to be worthy of the Golden Paintbrush Award, right? Do I have the right copy? We made a lot of different drafts of this.
No, that's probably not right. Hang on, let me find it. I might
The
even
one
be
that was sent out has 5 as any other comments.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the one that I have. Any other comments? And then at the bottom, upload photos.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, any other comments? I always think all questionnaires should have every other comments at the bottom, but there might be things which people didn't think fitted into the numbered boxes so far, but which would be relevant. And then I feel like it would be useful for the judges to have some pictures of whatever it is they're judging. Or sound files, I suppose, or videos. I don't know. Do we need to have all those possible uploads? We probably do, right? Regarding everything.
I think they could figure that out. One of the things we did try to do with this was, if you look up at 2 at categories, we wanted to make it broader. We wanted people to know that it just wasn't visual arts. So we tried to do that.
Does anyone have anything they think is missing from this questionnaire that is essential to add? I'm sure it'll be a document that after the first time going through, we'll wish we had asked certain things, but we can adapt at that point.
So Sophie and I worked with Vanita on this quite a bit, and this was just kind of well, it was our final draft, but it's our rough final draft. And her thought was that we could take it to the city communications staff who could review it and kind of tweak it. And then hopefully we'll come back to you in December with, some finalized advertisement type things. We'd like to have something up on the website, the city website, of the Golden Paintbrush Award coming soon. And then just kind of reintroduce the project and get people thinking about it.
Great.
Yeah, so we got the final one is the judging, which we decided to up the number of judges to 5. So a panel of 3 to 5 judges representing local residents, leaders in arts, education and business communities. Judges will be nominated each year by Special Projects Work Group. It doesn't say whether they have to be new or the same ones. The Art Commission will approve the list of judges. The judges will collectively define how they use each of the criteria. This is intended to provide maximum flexibility for judging. The award is to recognize creative civic achievement and promote appreciation of the variety of public art in Ann Arbor. So the chair of the Art Commission will facilitate judging but not vote. And then we recommend awards will be presented by the mayor at a city council meeting. So hopefully that's just that small amount of updates on that, and we can get a poster designed and a flyer designed and online
Great.
stuff
Seems
happening.
like you guys have done lots of work. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
It's been fun. I've loved working with Sophie. We did have one question that we thought maybe someone on the commission might remember. In one of the old F&Q or Q&A, whatever, it said, if you're awarded the Golden Paintbrush Award, you will receive a certificate and a small sculptural memento at a city council meeting. And Vanita thought that was a little pin. Does anybody remember what the sculptural memento was? It's very vague.
That's exactly what it was.
It was a pin?
It was the pin that Vanita has, yes.
Got it, okay.
Apparently there are a dozen of those left. So hopefully that'll be enough for now.
So,
We were thinking in the future, it'd be lovely if we could commission an artist to make some little awards each year, but then there would have to be a way to figure out how you decide who to commission and all that stuff. So we thought we'd leave that for now.
so does this plan need to go to council for approval since we're asking the city to give out this award?
My first reaction is maybe not. Let me stew on that a little bit and get back to you folks, but I would rather not take it to city council. It's your award.
Can we at least vote approval on moving forward with the process?
Oh, yeah,
So
sure.
we've got that in
Sure.
case it needs to.
Yeah.
Do we need to vote on it again? We voted on it last time that we wanted to do it.
Yeah, we're moving on that vote. I am comfortable as staff working on this to move it forward with what you've done so far.
Okay, great.
Presumably, in theory, it's a continuation of previous awards given by city council, so you shouldn't have to have a new.
And I gotta think about how we go forward. It might be an award from the Art Commission with just city council recognizing it.
That would be fine.
Sarah, you had your hand up.
Yes, I just wanted to, if having some sort of artist memento is something we really wanted to do this year, I could bring it up at Motawi Tile Works because we do create trophies for the Dart for Art event, which kicks off the Ann Arbor Art Fair week. So for all of the winners of the race, they actually get a custom Dart for Art Motawi tile. And I could check with our production manager and see if that's something that we could fit into the schedule. If the awards are looking like they would be in June, I think that would be enough time to come up with something like that.
I second it.
You second it? Okay.
Yes.
Great. I will bring that up. I guess, Sophie, I will get with you on any type of image, logo or something like that I can forward to our production team and see if we can get a mold made relatively quickly for something like that. Or if you had some sort of imagery, the Dart for Art, it's relatively simple. The logo, we dip it in a glaze color and it turns out really beautifully. So if you have any of those images, I'll email you asking about that.
I don't think at this moment do, but I know Vernita is going to work with the city communications staff and we're hoping maybe they can come up with something. Right, Vernita?
Yes.
Fairly soon. Our hope is that by the December meeting, we'll have something. Would that be too late, Sarah? We had it by December? Maybe
I'll roll it out and I'll see what they say. But December to June, and it's only 5, how many? It's 5 awards.
Right.
Yeah. So in terms of quantity, that wouldn't be a problem. It would just be making the mold itself. But for that small amount, I think we could make it work.
Great idea. I wanted more of a memento than just a little pin between you and I. I thought something more substantial would be great. So thanks for the suggestion.
Absolutely.
So do we have to worry about financing for that?
For the tile or for that, so Motawi donates the Dart for Art awards to that event. So again, that's something that I would have to check with probably Noelle Motawi on if she'd like to do this as a donation. And the nice thing is once we have the mold, it's something that can be produced over and over and over again. So it's something that can stand for every Golden Paintbrush Award. And if we do this as a relief tile, we can change the color every year. So it wouldn't be exactly the same. You'd get something different for every year.
I like that idea.
I love it. Thank you, Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any further discussion about the paintbrush award before we move on to our next working group? Great. The next working group is youth outreach. Do we have any updates from you guys?
No, no meetings or updates at this time.
I will say I got my voting stuff in the mail and I got my sticker and I'm very excited about it.
That would be the update I too have received. So that was that was a good thing for this year. Other than that, I think we'll have to probably wait until we're able to get in touch with some young people who are back in the world, as I hope to be someday soon.
Great. All right. Do we have any general comments from folks, things you want to share with everybody? I'll say I am working on an article that may be published in November that I kind of toot our horn about our public art tour. So hopefully when that goes out, I'll share that with all of you, assuming that it gets published. So
Cool.
Doing some communications work. All right. Well, if there is nothing else to add, then I have a motion. Do I have a motion to adjourn our meeting? John, thank you.
Just going to say one thing first.
Go ahead, Sophie.
I'm now on the board of the Ann Arbor Women Artists, which is about to change its name. So watch this space to be more inclusive.
Excellent. That will be mentioned in the article as well. All right. John has moved for us to adjourn. Do I have a second? Thank you, David. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Thank you all. Have a great evening.
Thanks, you too.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.